TG Geeks, episode 351, November 8th, 2021. Author, editor, and mentor. Hello. I thought I fixed that.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery. Sci-fi, comics, film, horror genre, you name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane, and we're coming to you from TG Squared Studios in lovely Phoenix, Arizona, where we have two dogs next door barking.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can't hear them.
No, to us, I'm Ben Raggington coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona. And earlier, before we started recording, you sort of unintentionally made a pun when you called it a troubadour.
Oh, did I?
You did.
I'm sorry.
And I thought, oh, that's so charming. I'm saving it. I'm saving it for the show.
I didn't know. Oh, well. Yeah, speaking of the sound, something happened with my iPad. And, yes, I know what happened with my iPad. It was silly Apple Music and the syncing and all of that. And then I turned it on and lost a bunch of sounds. I turned it back off and some sounds came back, but not everything in this app that I use went back to normal. So I will have to fix that sound. I'll put that on my list. If I don't do it next week, everybody remind me, please. And let's just get on with this episode.
Prepare for hyperdrive.
Meanwhile, in the Hall of Episodes, the Two Gay Geeks are discussing this.
Well, in this episode, we have Barbara Ann Wright, who is an author and an editor and mentors young authors as well, I believe. And then we're going to talk to her and then find out how she got into writing. And then we have her birthday shout outs, our featured podcast of the week. And then we have some feedback, which I haven't looked at.
Feedback is fun this week.
And regular shout-outs. In the second segment, I haven't scrolled down to find out if we
don't have anything.
We don't have anything.
No.
Well, maybe we can talk about what we were supposed to talk about last week that we glossed over.
Scratch the surface of?
Yes, and then our wacky weekly recap, and then our regular shout-outs. And we got some interesting birthdays this time.
Oh, I haven't looked yet.
Yep, so we're going to get right on to it. And this time we welcome to our show Barbara Ann Wright, author and editor. Welcome, Barbara.
Hi, it's great to be here. Sorry.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for
being here. Good night.
Thanks for letting me be had.
We'll be here all week.
Yeah.
Tip the waiter.
Exactly. So tell us, because you were referred by David Slayton, and I always want to say David R Slayton because he always makes that distinction. Otherwise, you get the dentist. But
so maybe we should too.
Yes. So you came to us through him, and you, of course, when he sent us a copy of the Trailer Park Trickster, I got this big box, and I thought, what the heck did he send to us? And it's like there were like 10 books in there, and I haven't had an opportunity to read your book. I read a couple of them while we were on vacation, but oh my gosh, there were just too many books to read. So tell us who Barbara Ann Wright is, kind of the elevator pitch of your life and how you got into writing.
Well, I am a writer and an editor for Bold Strokes Books. I have I'm just about to release my 16th novel with them.
Whoa!
Yeah, I
moly.
write fantasy and science fiction starring LGBT characters, or as mostly what I say is fantasy and science fiction with sarcastic lesbians thrown in.
Aha!
I've been writing pretty much all my life, I guess. I was first published in 2012.
Wow, that's a long run.
Yeah. I was tinkering around in college and with writing groups, and I actually met David at a pitch conference in 2008, and we became very good friends, crying into our beer over how no agents would touch us. And then I love it. Years later, we're still friends, and we're actually able to pimp each other's books.
That is really cool. And so you've been writing since what made you, what was the bug that got you into writing? Was it a specific teacher or a subject or
just
something?
voices in your head?
Or just voices in your head?
A combination of all of those. The voices are telling me to say. But just that I've always loved stories. I've always loved storytelling. And there's so many times I'll watch a story or something and I'll be like, no, that's not how it should go. Especially when I was younger, lots of stories about women. If you had a sci-fi or fantasy movie, there are some good ones where with good women protagonists, but often it was she gets captured, or something, and tied up.
Barbarella.
And I said, no. She gets to be the hero. And I had my dolls that I would play with. I had so many Barbies, and I had one Ken. So he always ended up getting captured and tied up.
Kinky.
The girl squad would have to come after him. So that's how I started doing it. And then, of course, when I got older and I didn't see anything with any gay characters in them, except, unless they die tragically, then I was like, okay, enough.
Right.
I'm hoping the Ken was dressed in a loincloth.
Yeah. Hopefully you bought the G.I. Joe costumes and dressed up the Barbies in them.
I have, when I've gotten older, I started making Barbie videos for now I make them for my books, but I actually had to find a full-size 12-inch doll with all the combat gear just so I could strip him.
Oh my gosh.
And give it to my dolls.
Interesting.
Nice.
That's
now
great.
there's some videos that I want to see.
Those you could put up on TikTok.
Oh yeah, I was before that. They're on YouTube now. So
a little long for TikTok then.
Yes.
So what is now your books that you've written? Are they all related, or are they different themes, or is there some arc that you're telling, or
something that connects the universes, shall we say?
The universe, yes.
Some of them are series. I have 3 series. The rest of them are standalone. So far, there's nothing that connects all of them because I've written everything from sort of like medieval-esque fantasy to way far in the future sci-fi.
Uh-huh.
So I haven't so far done the Stephen King thing where I'm trying to weave everything together. That might be fun one day.
I mean, that's what Asimov finally decided before he died. He was working on his final Foundation novel and realized, oh my God, I need to tie this all into one single universe. So I'm like, yeah, iRobot. Yeah, I can see that connecting with Foundation and Empire. Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Just wrap it all up.
Exactly.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So they all knew each other and they lived happily ever after.
Right.
Yes.
That's what I need to see. So you write under all these different kinds of genres. I'm taking there are different voices or different motivations every time you decide you just finished like this fantasy thing, and all of a sudden you get this bug say, I really need to tell a story that's set in the far future that's more sci-fi based. I mean, what's going on creatively there?
Yeah, I think it's just whatever has inspired me at the moment. So I'm like, okay, I want to write something that's really magic heavy. Oh no, now I want to write something that's high tech in space. So now I want to read about physics, and then realize I don't understand physics.
Right.
So yeah, it's just like whatever I've seen that inspires me. Before I wrote Paladins of the Stormlord, which I think is what David sent to you.
Right.
I saw a piece of a sign in a field, and it was all degraded, and I couldn't see most of it. The only part that was left that I could make out was very sharp teeth. So I just took that and ran with it, and that became my aliens.
Yeah.
So you mentioned how you go around in life and you'd see things that would inspire you, but then you mentioned how you were going to do something on physics and you need to study physics. So at some point when you were working on something, did you ever inspire yourself to do something totally different?
I have only ever inspired myself like that to waste time. When I'm working on something, I try not to work on anything else that's the same stage, because that way lies madness. That way you'll write 50 first chapters and never get anything done. So, no, I've only ever inspired myself to go down a research hole about physics or bears or whatever it is I'm looking at the time.
Interesting. We have another author friend who's a very close friend of ours that writes across multiple genres, from westerns to sci-fi to aliens to, to horror, and it's just it's amazing how I have a hard time writing a book review unless it just jumps out at me.
She writes under different pen names at the same time, and each pen name has its own voice. So it's not just the voice of the characters, it's the voice of the author as well. And I say that authors should be in psychiatric textbooks because of the psychology and the mental process that is going on in their heads. I mean, I sometimes wonder if there isn't some sort of split personality disorder that is going on with some of these authors. And that's why I think, because she writes under multiple pen names, she's able to literally jump from one book to another. It's like, okay, right now, Anita, she feels like she needs to write, so she'll write a few chapters under Anita. It's like, okay, now Jeannie needs to write, so she would jump back and forth. And of course, the idea of that happening just absolutely terrifies me. So that's not you. You no. write with with one voice, even though multiple genres, right?
Yes. No, I am not either skilled or insane enough to try the whole different voices, different pseudonyms, different all of that. I think that way lies madness as well.
Well, explain, Jeannie.
You start thinking about your alternate personalities and what they'd like for Christmas and stuff, I think you're going too far.
I think you're right.
So I did want to touch on one thing. You wanted to be introduced as author-editor, so that indicates the editor part is that you've done some anthologies work and whatnot. Is that correct?
I've edited a lot of books for Bold Strokes. I've done some anthologies, but I'm also just a straight-up editor who works for them.
I see.
So probably 30 books.
Wow.
Maybe more. It's been a couple years now, but yeah, I edit everything for them I don't edit everything to have lots of editors, but I edit a lot of genres is what I meant to say.
Right.
For them.
Very interesting. So you don't want to look at our website on anything that I've ever written, so.
I probably like comma. I can't help it anymore.
Yeah. I tell people.
Now I'm self-conscious too, because I usually write the bulk of the reviews, and now I'm like terrified. Okay, yeah, don't go to our website. Even though I use, I like to think of myself as a relatively competent writer, but now I'm having feelings of test anxiety for some reason.
Yeah, it's okay. I try to rein it in. I don't go to random websites and I'm like comma as much as I want to, or more than that. People's posts on Facebook, I'm like, that's not how you do that. But,
I do that too. I see that a lot, and then I just okay, now move on. It's either that or I print it out and grab a red pen and start doing marks, and then mailing it to them. No, thank you.
I always tell people, at work, I said I have to put my headset on because I have to type with both fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so you have Paladins of the Stormlord, but there is something else that you have that is releasing currently. Is that you were telling us in the pre-interview section?
Yes, I am currently in the middle of the Sisters of Ceres trilogy. The first book was The Noble and the Nightingale, which came out last year or early this year. I can't remember which. It's 20 and 2021 are all a blur to me at this point. And then the second book, The Scout and the Scoundrel, comes out next month, and it's the story of three sisters, and they're set in a fantasy universe, and it basically has one book from each of their POVs as their country is getting close to war with the country next door.
Yeah, and that is actually tomorrow as of the release of this interview, so November 9th.
November 8th?
Yes.
By 9th?
9th?
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Now I can't be certain. It
Anyway.
comes out November 9th.
Time is meaningless.
Yeah,
I know.
It comes out November 9th.
Yeah,
Yes.
as we have, as you said, the last 2 years have been a blur. We've coined it the damdemic. So it's what happened in the last 2 years? I have no clue. It's all a blur. We stayed at home. So
everyone's philosophy is shifted to we're not sure what's real anymore.
Exactly. So tell us about this Paladins of the Stormlord, and then we'll go on into the current series that you're writing, so that we have more information about you, so people can say, "Oh, I have to pick her books up."
Okay, so Paladins is the start of a 4-book series called the Godfall series. And it's about a group of colonists who crash, basically, in space. They get thrown off course very far away from the target planet they're supposed to be at, so that they're at another planet. And because of the technology malfunction that they suffered, the crew has developed these sort of superpowers. Like telepathy and whatnot, and one of them even has the power to manipulate matter at the cellular level, so he's able to keep everybody alive.
Wow!
Chaos magic.
Yeah, so one of them jettisons the colonists to the actual planet, and then the bridge crew that's left on the space station, they sort of become gods to these people.
That's fascinating.
Oh, that sounds very interesting.
Yeah, and then the series that you're writing now, that the book that releases tomorrow. Tell us more about that series and where people can find all of this.
So this series is completely opposite of the one that I just talked about. It's a fantasy series, but I've heard it called fantasy for people who don't really read fantasy. In that it's very easy to understand. There's not a lot of weird stuff going on. There's a lot of politics and mystery. And it's more about the lives of these three sisters. It's very character centric. And about how one of them's a diplomat, one's a soldier, and one's a mage. And it's really about how all this stuff that's happening with these countries affects their lives. And then they all have a really strong romantic subplot too, as each sister finds her perfect match.
Interesting. So
when you're writing these, I mean, everything just sounds so very specific. What kind of thought goes into the building of these worlds? I mean, some people are really heavily strong into world building, and others, they kind of like to be more character building.
Kind of plotter versus a pantser.
Well, but not just that. I mean, some people like to reveal the universe through the characters as the story goes along, and then there are other people that just info dump, and then then the characters start kind of moving around. How's your approach on that? And when you're starting a new series, what kind of process do you go through in understanding the universe that the story is going to take place in?
Well, I don't like to do the dump ever. For Paladins, I was inventing a brand new world from scratch, but this world already existed, so I couldn't use, say, rabbits, horses. So I actually had to build the planet from scratch. And so that I started, when I was doing my world building, I started with the planet itself. So what kind of ecology do I want? What are all my creatures going to look like? They have to fit their environment. What might evolve in a swamp, what might evolve on the plains, what it might evolve in a desert, what, this, that, and the other, and I had to just kind of build it. But I didn't want to just overload the reader and be like, hey, there's a planet, this is how it works. So I had everything, just the characters would encounter it, and then I could describe it or work it in that way. But I felt like it was just a framework just sitting there, most of which I didn't use. Or didn't reference, rather.
Well, I still respect that greatly. Even though you had all this information, it's nice to at least have a very coherent and consistent universe that's already built in some sort of notes, so that at least as the story is unfolding as you write it, at least you've got this very, as I said, consistent framework to go by. So now when you're doing the characters, and this is always my favorite question, how fully realized are they by the time you actually get to the writing of them? I mean, do you get, because I know that so many writers get to the point where, especially when they're doing a series of books, that the characters become so alive in their head that they start hearing them to the point where it almost feels like the writer is merely taking dictation.
I can see how it would seem that way. I think I've told many people, I've said before that I think the way to write quickly is to know your characters. So I make not only copious notes about my world, but about my characters. Are they sarcastic? Do they have, and the answer is always yes. Do they have a dark past? How intelligent are they? How quick to anger? These sorts of things, so that I will know immediately how they would react to any situation that I could throw at them. Because as far as plot, I'm much more of a pantser, so that I can just throw my characters into a thing. And because I know them, I feel like I know them based on these personality sheets I fill out. I know how they're going to react.
Oh my God, she's writing D&D.
Yeah, there you go. Do you have a set of dice that you use while you're?
Yeah, you're rolling for initiative as you're writing the story.
Only if I'm like, okay, what do I want to happen now? All right, I rolled a 6. That's a kidnapping. Okay.
Yeah. So, have the characters, changed the plot, or not changed the plot, but changed the direction of where you thought something was going when you threw them into that situation?
Sometimes, especially with Paladins, because that one, a lot of the characters in it have traits and experiences that I had myself. It's probably the book that had at least most of younger me in it. Now I'm like, I look back at that just like I look back at myself, and I'm like, I'm not like that anymore. But several times I had stuff in there with my main character, Cordelia, and had her in situations where there was a lot of talking. And in that book, at least, she's not a talker. And I was like, okay, she'd be stabbing someone by now. So that at times it did feel like she was turning to me and saying, what are you doing? I'd be stabbing someone by now. And so I had to be like, okay, I can't put her in this situation and have her react contrary to her character. So she would shake things up. She would, turn a table over. She would get to the point. And so it's like, okay, yeah, so this can't be a tense diplomatic scene with her in it, because it would just devolve.
Yeah, she pulls a knife out and stabs it into the table.
Yes. Or something. Yeah, something to get someone's attention, to get us back on track.
Now listen to me.
That's right.
So you've had...
Not that I ever did that.
So you've had situations where, like, maybe you've had to... you've maybe hit, I wouldn't say a roadblock, because again, our author friend in Atlanta, she said, she was working on this one novel and it just came to a screeching halt and she couldn't get past it because this is where she wanted the story to go. And then she realized that her characters are like, no, I would do this instead. And then she finally surrendered to what the character was saying, and then the rest of the story completely unfolded in front of her.
I've never had anything quite like that happen. I have had written myself into a hole before, or a roadblock, and I actually, that part of me that is still like Cordelia is like, no, let's turn something over, let's do something here, so that if I feel like I'm just kind of riding along and we're talking about cupcakes, or something, and the story is getting kind of meandery and no one's really doing anything, that I'm like, okay, to hell with it, let's have something explode. Let's do something to move the story forward. And because I think when I'm just fiddling with it, I'm scared of like, okay, this plot's going to be the one that's terrible.
Right.
So I'm like, no, if it's going to be terrible, let's be terrible. Let's tear everything down.
Far out. So, okay, this sounds fantastic, and I'm terribly interested in some of the books that you got going on here. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, so instead I will simply ask this. Where can people find your work?
At the Boldstrokes website, boldstrokes.com. On Amazon, on Books A Million, on Barnes & Noble, everywhere. Where all books are sold.
And they come in multiple formats, print, Kindle, etc.?
Yes, every single e-book format you can think of, as well as print.
Fantastic. And if people want to follow you on any kind of social media platform and, keep informed as to what you are doing, is there any social media presence or even a website that is solely yours that they can go to?
Facebook is really good to find out what I'm up to. You can find me at Barbara Ann Wright there, or you can just friend me on my personal account at Barbara Wright. I don't plan to. I don't guarantee that I'll always be, PC or not PC, but friendly on that one. You can find me on Twitter at Zendra, Zendra G&T. That's a long story. And also, I have a website that's barbaraannwright.com where you can find out all about my books.
That is
fantastic.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on our show this time, Barbara.
Thank you for having me.
You don't need to hear their identification. They're the Two Gay Geeks. They can go about their business. Move along.
Okay, let's see. Here we go.
Help me, please.
My favorite music.
Yeah, this has become his favorite tune.
Does everybody like this for the birthday music, or do we need to go back to Wonderful or to the kitschy thing with the popping at the beginning?
I'll leave it up to you. He likes this, so he's running the soundboard, so he gets to choose.
It just goes on forever. But
yeah.
That's why I like it. It just loops. Loops and loops. All right, here's a few selected birthdays for November 8th to November 14th, 2021. November 8th, Alfre Woodward.
Love her.
Actress. She was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
How many amazing people were born in Oklahoma? A lot.
She actually graduated from Bishop Kelly High School in Tulsa, and her career started in the 70s. She has done a lot of TV and voiceover, and notable films: Scrooged, Star Trek: First Contact, 12 Years a Slave. She's been married since 1983.
Well, that's
to
great.
The same man.
Wonderful.
How about that? Jack Kilby.
Kilby?
Kill me now. No, Jack Kilby.
Aha.
Electrical engineer who helped create the first integrated circuit in 1958 while working at Texas Instruments.
Cool.
He was also the co-inventor of the handheld handheld calculator and thermal printer.
I probably had... Okay, so yeah, the calculator that I got was from
TI.
him. Thank you.
Yeah, probably a TI.
It was a TI.
Everybody had a TI back in the day, in the 70s. And then we have Jerome Hines, opera singer, sang at the Met from 1946 to 1987. So many different roles. Mm-hmm. He was famous for singing Zarastro in The Magic Flute, as well as King Mark and Tristan and Isolde, and the Grand Inquisitor in Don Carlo.
I remember, he came to Phoenix.
Yeah. Exactly.
And gave a performance for the Arizona Opera. It was really like after he was retired, to be honest.
Well, he actually did it as a favor for Glenn Ross, the general manager at the time. He was in his 80s. I mean, obviously his voice was not perfect, but
No.
he sang Zarastro,
Yeah.
which was, I mean, it's not a horribly demanding part.
Not entirely.
But it requires some, and they put the poor guy up on this elevated platform. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But he was 6'6". So he was always a commanding performance on the stage.
Well, I remember the first time I got to hear him in his prime.
Oh my God.
We were driving to California and we listened to Med Opera Radio, and they played one of their historical broadcasts of Tristan and Isolde. And to hear him sing then, it was quite
like
powerful.
1955 or something like that.
It was like a 55 recording, and he was amazing.
Absolutely. Then we have a friend of ours and singer himself, Alexander James Adams, and Cynthia Ward, and our niece, Summers Sellers.
Mrs. Summers Sellers.
Mrs. Summers. Yes, her name is Summers.
Forever.
Forever and ever. November 9th, Carl Sagan, astronomer, physicist, author,
teacher,
among a few of his titles.
I mean, to watch him, I know, but to watch him teach, and to explain, some of the basics of astronomy and astrophysics to children was mesmerizing. He was so good at that.
Yep. Mr. Billions and Billions.
And star stuff.
And star stuff, yes. The supporter of SETI and put together the Pioneer Plaque and the Voyager Golden Record, which were the first physical messages sent into space. And they're still out there flying.
They still are.
Still flying around the cosmos. And speaking of the cosmos, his TV series, Cosmos.
Yeah.
Was a great series. It's a little dated now, but it's still fascinating.
But a lot of it
just
a lot of it holds up. A lot of it still does hold up.
An author of the book Contact, that was the basis for the movie, sadly died just before the film could be
what
released.
A shame.
Yeah. Mary Travers, singer, songwriter, Peter, Paul, and Mary, one of the 60s most successful pop folk music groups.
Oh, God, yes.
Pop folk, folk pop.
Yeah.
She actually released 5 solo albums in addition to the many Peter, Paul, and Mary albums.
Her
I know
passing,
you love her.
I did. I really did. Her passing, she just had all sorts of health issues that came in towards the end of her life.
Yep.
What a shame, because what Peter, Paul, and Mary did made such a huge impact on me.
Yep. And then we have a friend of ours, Tony Kim, who is
Heroes Within.
Heroes Within. Or Hero Within.
Hero Within, yeah.
Yes. Go to his website. He has some really cool clothing. And then a friend of ours at Arizona Opera, Zach Hayhurst. Happy birthday, Zach. November 10th, Taron Egerton, actor, Kingsman, and Rocket Man.
Oh, yeah.
Among others. Has done a number of voiceover parts. It was amazing. I was scrolling down through his IMDb page, and he's, as with a lot of actors, has done a lot of voiceover. People that can change their voice. It just always
he's quite good at it. And I thought he did a brilliant job playing the role of Elton John. He was amazing.
Yep. He's rumored to be Seymour Krelborn in a remake of Little Shop of Horrors.
I could see him doing that.
Yep,
I really could.
It's in pre-production right now. Neil Gaiman, writer. Oh my gosh, has written for virtually everything.
Oh yeah,
written and or created several great TV series, and written for Babylon 5.
Yes, Day of the Dead.
Yeah, Joe Straczynski was so impressed by him that he named an alien after him. The game.
Oh, the Gaimans. The games.
The game.
Yeah, the
games. And he's written Good Omens, created Good Omens, American Gods, Lucifer, and what I consider as a game-changing episode of Doctor Who.
It is a game-changing episode.
The Doctor's Wife.
I mean, my God.
It sets canon not on its ear, but it makes a lot of things make sense.
You have to look at all past Doctor Who episodes in a different light.
Exactly. And has written an early screenplay for Black Hole.
Oh my God, has he?
Yeah.
Should I be scared?
You should probably be scared.
I'm gonna run away.
Greg Lake, Musician?
Oh my God, Emerson Lake and Palmer.
Yeah, what do you want to say about Greg Lake?
And one of
It's up to you.
and he was founding member of King Crimson. Fantastic musician. And in my opinion, a highly underrated bass player, because you listen to a lot of the recordings, especially the mid to later stuff that ELP did, and his bass playing sounds really kind of like just there. But having seen him in concert and actually watching him play, he was a very gifted bass player, as well as just a regular strong guitarist as well.
Yeah.
And I wished he had done more guitar work with ELP like he did in their very early years. But I think the guy was amazing. And what I also think is fantastic is that he really was not a big fan of prog.
Interesting.
No, he wasn't, and his musical tastes lied elsewhere, and yet here we are.
And yet here we are. Yes. Francois Cooperand, French Baroque composer of the famed Cooperand family. His father, his uncle, Louis Cooperand, was a famous harpsichord composer and composer of music. But Francois was the great Cooperand, as they referred to him, because he composed a great deal of harpsichord music, organ music, etc. Influenced the French style of composing and playing of harpsichord music. Was the most famous of the Cooperand. November 11th, Stanley Tucci, actor, TV and movies.
Fantastic actor.
Fabulous chemistry with Meryl Streep.
Oh,
and
yes.
Devil Wears Prada and Julie and Julia.
The only two movies they've ever been in, and yet their chemistry is so amazing.
It's so amazing
You'd think that they had done everything together.
Exactly. Exactly. And then we have Dick Cavett, who we just talked
him.
about the other night. We said, is he still alive?
He's still kicking.
He's still alive. And he's actor, host, has probably done more as guests and hosts of talk shows than anyone else.
Yep.
I mean, and mostly as himself.
Yep.
And has been in a number of movies as himself.
Yep.
And
he's an incredibly intelligent man.
Yes, he was.
And in my opinion, you look at a lot of the television talk shows that were out there, and a lot of them are kind of lighthearted. And while he could get into that area, he also, I think, was probably the first of the great interviewers for television.
They say that he was the most erudite of
question,
the talk show hosts.
No question.
And even though his show only lasted 8 years,
doesn't feel like it.
It has run over 35 years on various networks. Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
And you can find his shows all over the place on YouTube.
Yep. And then we have a friend of ours, Andrew Mcdade, who we actually met on a Disney cruise. He was a bartender and coffee person, and we just have became
great friends with him. Got to had a little couple of hours reunion when it turns out he and his girlfriend were in New York City at the same time we were.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, that was great.
Yeah, we met at Times Square and sat down, had some coffee, chatted, and it was like we just couldn't stop talking. You know? We both had to be somewhere.
Yeah. But it was just a lot of fun. Such a great time to see him again.
Yep.
And his girlfriend is a delight.
Yep. November 12th, Joe Stafford.
Oh, dear.
Singer who began her career with Tommy Dorsey way back, and her own group, the Pied Pipers. She racked up 93 hits in 13 years.
Good God.
Never won an Emmy or, a
Grammy.
A Grammy during that time. But one time when there was some, downtime, she and her husband on a lark recorded a couple of spoofs. Her husband was Paul Weston. He was a record producer, and they were fooling around one day.
Gifted piano player, too.
Oh, yeah. And recorded a couple of songs as Jonathan and Darlene Edwards.
Oh, my God.
They recorded the songs as a truly awful third-rate lounge act. And Jonathan played the piano badly, and Darlene sang terrible songs off-key, even though she had perfect pitch. And she was
how she could do that is such. It's astounding because for one thing, it's very hard if you've got perfect pitch. I mean, it's nearly impossible, if not painful, to try and sing off pitch. And then she had the ability to sing a tad bit sharp. That's even tougher. I mean, it's easy for a person to sing flat, but to sing a tiny bit sharp and make it sound like you're not doing it deliberately, but you're doing it because you're simply bad.
Exactly.
Is amazing.
And they did several albums, but they would also host parties at their home.
I would have
and
given.
they would come down as excuse themselves, come down and Jonathan and Darlene Edwards, and neither character had a clue how supremely untalented they were.
What I would have given, I'm sure their parties were like the event to be at in Hollywood. I mean, it's like, oh my God, we have to go there because they're going to be doing Jonathan and Darlene.
Yep. And they won an Emmy for their first album.
You mean a Grammy?
Comedy, Grammy, yes. I wrote Grammy. And anyway, for the first album.
How weird that they got a comedy Grammy.
Exactly.
Especially when you're talking to such powerfully strong musicians to begin with.
Exactly. And I have to wonder if they weren't the inspiration for the SNL skit, The Culps.
Oh.
You have to wonder.
You have to wonder.
Wallace Shawn, actor.
Inconceivable.
Toy Story, Princess Bride, Incredibles, DS9.
Oh, God.
As the
Grand Nagus.
As the Grand Nagus. And he's one of those actors that gets around and seems to pop up in bit parts, a character actor in everything.
I wouldn't call him a character actor.
Well, he plays himself. But
it's always himself. But yes, he pops up everywhere.
He was considered for Eddie Valiant in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Rabbit.
Oh, no. Bob Hoskins. No, I don't see that. Bob Hoskins really delivered on that one.
Then Lucia Pop, opera singer. She sang at the Met, La Scala, Covent Garden, and Vienna State Opera. Her professional debut was as Queen of the Night in Magic Flute.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a debut.
23. I mean,
at the age of 23?
Yeah. And
Holy
she
smokes,
was a very
Bullwinkle.
gifted singer. And she sang one of the arias in the film Philadelphia, Mozart's Non Temer Amato Bene. And it just... there had been rumors that she was the one that sang the Mad Scene
from Lucia?
From Lucia, but that was not true.
No, she didn't
and
do that.
Also that she was the one that sang the aria in Fifth Element, but that was not true either.
No.
So anyway, she sadly died at 54 of brain cancer.
Oh, no.
She was wonderful.
Too young.
Actress and singer. November 13th, John Delancey, actor most famed for Q. In Star Trek and in various incarnations. And he's another Days of Our Lives alum.
Oh, yes. Corey Nelson, who will be hearing some feedback a little bit later in the show, she and I were big Days watchers when we were in school. And I kid you not, we would both get home from school roughly around the same time. She'd go home, I go home, and then we would talk to each other over the phone while watching Days of Our Lives. And we both loved the character that John Delancey played. He was so comically and charmingly quirky. I mean, not like Q. Q is I don't know what the word escapes me at the moment. But in Days of Our Lives, he was absolutely delightful to watch.
Yep. He also, it was interesting when Mission Impossible and Star Trek re-emerged.
Right.
He played the villain on both of them, and which was kind of interesting. It was a throwback to the old Desilu days when a lot of the Desilu productions shared actors.
Yeah.
All over the place.
Yeah.
So it was interesting.
And there was definitely a Mission Impossible Star Trek connection back then.
Yep. And has hosted a children's series for the LA Philharmonic.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah. Whoopi Goldberg,
now, I
actress.
find it very ironic that they have the same birthday.
I know. Because I wrote in Star Trek where they have a thing.
Oh, God. A thing doesn't even begin to cover it.
Yeah. She's been in Sister Act, Ghost, Color Purple, Jumpin' Jack Flash, The Stand, among many others, and Star Trek as Guinan. The listener.
I loved her in Jumpin' Jack Flash. That she has moments in there that just had me in hysterics.
Yep. She was the second African-American woman to receive an Academy Award.
Oh, good for her.
Yep.
I love Whoopi Goldberg.
And then we have friend of ours, David Lee Summers, author and a classmate of mine, Mark Whitman.
Happy birthday.
November 14th, Claude Monet, painter, impressionist, and key precursor to the modernism. He was actually the one that took from the salon into impressionism, because if you look at his early portraits, they're those portraits of people in a salon, and then he moved into impressionism, and then that moved into modernism. Most famous for his paintings of his garden, and specifically the water lilies, is the one that everybody knows.
But I have to wonder if maybe his spawning or being at the head of of this whole impressionism movement just didn't happen because the poor man couldn't see.
Yeah. Well, if you look at his paintings, you can see the decline in his eyesight starting in about 1879, or 1878 to 1879, and things start to get fuzzier and fuzzier and fuzzier and fuzzier. And it's interesting. He died in 1926. He was born in 1840. He was 86. My God.
When you think about, that's such a gap. Born in the 1800s, died in the 1900s, and you're like, oh, that's not that long ago.
Yeah, exactly. Patrick Warburton, and by the way, we've seen a number of Monets.
Oh my God!
Oh my gosh! The lilies. One of the lilies.
Yes.
That toured the Phoenix Art
I couldn't stop staring at it.
Amazing.
I could not stop staring at it. It was so magnificent.
Yeah. It was mostly a Monet exhibit with some other of that era, but it was great. It was amazing. Patrick Warburton, actor, voiceover.
Dork!
All over the place.
Dork!
The Tick, and tons of voiceover.
Kronk.
And Buzz Lightyear.
Yes.
And the host or chief flight attendant of Soarin' Over California.
The chief
when it was
dork.
Soarin' Over California. Exactly.
I say that affectionately. I love Patrick Warburton. He's actually a very intelligent actor.
He
plays these dorky characters, and he's so good at it.
He is. And he's another one of those, like we were talking about earlier. He's a dork and just is totally unaware of it.
Oh, he's utterly, he's so unaware of his surroundings and of himself.
Exactly. Russell Tovey, out gay actor, Being Human, Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow.
I want to point out that his
Quantico.
His star really began to ascend after he came out.
Yeah, interesting.
And his coming out sort of started during the Doctor Who era, where he had one gay scene, so to speak, with Captain Jack of Torchwood.
Yep.
And it was a very brief moment where the two of them kind of like eyed each other and, how you doing? And he came out, I believe, shortly after that, and he has just gotten such great acting roles since then.
Yeah.
I couldn't be happier for him.
Yeah, it says that he kind of came out to himself at 15 and 18 to his parents.
Yeah.
And
he was terrified to come out to them.
Was initially thought, I feel like I don't belong to this community because all that you saw at that time was the over-the-top camp and all of that.
Yeah, didn't really. There are many sub-layers, that exist in our community.
Then we have Aaron Copeland, composer, assumed to be gay, but never confirmed by Copeland himself.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he toured and lots of young men that he kept company with.
Okay.
Almost all his entire life. His composition is what people consider to be the sound of American music.
Unquestionably.
His style has been referred to as very populist and what he called the vernacular. The Appalachian Spring, Billy the Kid, Rodeo, and his Lincoln Portrait are all just
they're brilliant.
Stunning.
Brilliant. Don't even get me started on his fanfare for the common man.
Yep. Paul McGann.
Oh, my God.
Doesn't count.
He doesn't count.
The Forgotten Doctor during a Canadian expedition.
Yes, but thanks to Russell T. Davies, who at first said Paul McGann doesn't count, he did. No, was it Paul? No, actually, it wasn't Paul McGann. It was God, the guy who succeeded him, whose name just went out of my head.
Him.
Yeah, him. And I'm ashamed. As a Doctor Who fanatic, I cannot remember the name of the showrunner who succeeded. I can see his face. Anyway, he brought Paul McGann back up to the... actually, no, I take that back. Russell T. Davies did during David Tennant's era.
Yeah.
He actually confirmed Paul McGann was a doctor.
Yep. And he was also in a thriller called B&B that we interviewed the director for.
Great thriller.
He was terrifying. And we finally tried to watch With Nell and I, which is supposed to be his big thing.
Couldn't watch it.
It was
this
meandering thing that I just couldn't understand.
It was killing me.
It was. We watched about 45 minutes of it, and I said, it's not going anywhere.
No.
What's going on? And then we have Wendy Carlos, composer and collaborator with Robert Moog in developing the Moog synthesizer. And she worked with him, to develop that thing. And oh my gosh, the days of the early Moog synthesizer were grueling.
I was watching just to compose some
produce
music.
A measure of
I know.
music.
I was watching it. Actually, both of us were watching a documentary on her, and she was showing how. At the time, because technology was so crude in terms of being able to record things, I mean, there was no polyphonic keyboards at the time. And it's not like that. So she would painstakingly just do these same measures again and again and again, just altering the settings. But that just goes to show how brilliant she was at being able to hear all this music in her head and understand this is what it needs to sound like. This is what the end result needs to be.
Exactly.
So I think she's amazing.
I loved her switched on Bach.
Oh my God, yes, it was fantastic.
Long before Tron, and the music for Tron is
I love her music for Tron.
Fabulous.
Unfortunately, it doesn't get enough recognition that she deserves.
Exactly. She raised public awareness of transgender issues in 1979 when she stated that she had been living as a woman since 1968 and had undergone reassignment surgery in 1972. She is 82.
I think she's amazing. I would love to talk to her and just, about her
too.
life and her music. I think she's great.
Exactly. And then we have our niece, Galen Hughes.
Happy birthday, Galen.
Happy birthday, Galen. And that's it for the birthdays this time, as we took forever.
Way too long.
But, oh well, that's it.
Hi, this is Kevin.
And this is Jason.
And we're the co-hosts of The Bright Side with Kevin and Jason, your weekly comedy about tragedy.
Every week, I teach Kevin about some tragic event in history, and then we find the bright side to it.
And every week, I learn from Jason something I wish I never knew.
You can find our podcast anywhere you find podcasts.
That's The Bright Side with Kevin and Jason, your weekly comedy about tragedy.
Go give a listen to our friends Kevin and Jason for the Bright Side podcast.
I love those guys.
He says something. I learned something.
I wish I never
Jason,
knew.
that I wish I never knew.
Yep. I'm Daniel Radcliffe, and I believe that reaching out for help is the bravest thing a person can do. If you are struggling and need support, call the Trevor Lifeline at 1-866-488-7386. It's free and confidential, and trained counselors are there to listen 24/7 without judgment. To learn more about the Trevor Project's life-saving work for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or questioning young people, go to thetrevorproject.org.
Joshua Tree Feeding Program, 501c3 nonprofit food pantry for the HIV and AIDS community in Maricopa and Pinal counties. They are a nonprofit organization. They set up like a store so that the clients can choose what they want, and it empowers them to take only what they want. They also have a second distribution for those in the gender nonconforming community that may be experiencing food insecurity, regardless of HIV status. If you want to give a gift to Joshua Tree, you can do that by doing a single monthly gift or a monthly recurring single gift or a monthly recurring gift, and go to jtfp.org.
Oh, it's time for a
cut some of
I'm
this
going to
short.
have to cut. Actually, I hate to do this. I'm going to have to cut one of these out. I'm going to have to cut the big one out and save that for next week. But yeah, this is the feedback, and normally this feedback is generated from comments that from articles that we ran on our website. But this one comment we got from Corey Lynn Nelson, and this is something she just sent to us. So it's I call it general. So this is not based on anything that we ran on our website. Anyway, she says, wondering if you have watched Ted Lasso.
No,
Couldn't
we
find
haven't.
a review or 3 episodes comment. Watched the first 2 seasons. First off, Roy Kent, the gruff, experienced player. Well, my favorite. Quickly, the lightness of the first episode moved into deeper stories for each character. Good end to season 2 this week. Can't wait for 3. No, we have not watched it. We watched a clip of it during an Apple presentation because they were doing... and this was one of the Apple development conferences that they have, and they played a clip to show the exciting things happening at Apple TV Plus, and the clip we saw did not enthuse either you or I. So no, we haven't watched it. Anyway, that is our feedback for this week.
And if you want to leave a comment, you can do that on our Facebook page or at tggeeks.com, as well as Twitter and Instagram, and on the episodes on YouTube. You can also leave us a voicemail by calling 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. And as always, please play nice. Well, we are huge supporters of independent creators, filmmakers, comic book artists, writers, or others. Please go visit their places that they have their stuff. Buy their stuff. Tell other people about their stuff. Please support independent creators. If you are trans or are questioning your gender identity, and if you are in crisis or are feeling isolated and need someone to talk to, or you know of someone in a similar situation, there is a special hotline just for you. The hotline is provided by translifeline.org and staffed by trained counselors who are transgender themselves. The hotline in the U.S. is 877-565-8860. In Canada, it is 877-330-6366. Or you can go to translifeline.org to learn about the important work they are doing. Please reach out for help. You are not alone.
Yeah, baby. They're like 2 gay geeks. They're together, you know. They're 2 gay guys and they're geeks. Is that okay?
Well, we are not talking about anything.
Nope, we're out of time.
You made it happen. You didn't put anything on here.
That's right. It's my fault.
It's your fault.
And it's time for our weekly review. These are items that we ran on our website at tggeeks.com, and the links for each of these news items will be in the show notes for this episode number 351 at tggeeks.com. Starting with Sunday, October 31st, Nerdy Chupacabras number 72. On Monday, November 1st, TG Geeks episode number 350. On Tuesday the 2nd, Ben's Breakdown, Midnight Mass 3-episode thoughts. On Wednesday the 3rd, Out Magazine celebrates 300th issue with cover star Sarah Ramirez. On Thursday the 4th, I love this, Cavett sees movies, Marvel's Eternals. It's really pretty. People, you need to check the link out to understand what she's talking about. So go to our website at episode 351 and read that. It'll be in the links. Friday, November 5th, Hamish Downey's 5 More Questions with Dean Newcomb. On Saturday the 6th, Illumination and Universal announce exclusive sneak preview screenings of Sing 2.
All of this at tggeeks.com.
We have some shout-outs that we need to make. First to Brian Weber, also known as Arkle. He's a good friend of ours. You can find him on Twitter as Geek of All Trades. He's also referred to there as Brian the Ampersand List YouTuber. And while you're checking all things Arkle out, you might want to take a look at his Dispatch News. Yes, the Arkle Times Post Dispatch News is back, and you can find it by searching for him on Twitter. Remember, that's Brian the Ampersand List YouTuber. And while you're doing that, hey, head over to YouTube, go to Arkle Studios. He has a number of his projects there. His Shameless Cash Grab series, which is now in Season 7. Woohoo! His Rants vs. Zombie series, which has officially ended, but hey, past episodes, still there. And he has his Arkle tier ranks, as well as game videos of Trick and Treat, as well as Star Trek Online. We must give some shout-outs to some Facebook groups while we're doing this. First, Two Gay Geeks After Hours for saying that we could share away our content there. Their URL is facebook.com/group/Gay Geeks After Hours, and then to The Gay Geek for pretty much the same thing. And their URL is facebook.com/group/The Gay Geek. And we must give special thanks to their moderator, Jeremiah Reeves.
Thanks, Jeremiah. We can also be found at Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Amazon Podcasts, as well as where other fine podcasts can be found. Also, check us out on Sci-Fi Radio at 3 a.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific Time on Tuesdays, and for a replay of this episode, and listen to their other content, their 24-hour geeky internet radio station. Please rate us and review us on iTunes, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for this webcast episode. We'll have several links on the page of things we talked about. And remember, you can comment our Facebook page or our website, tggeeks.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357 from TG Squared Studios. I'm Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. Please be kind to yourself and those around you. Stay safe, wear a mask, get vaccinated. Peace.
Cheers.